and welcome to Rubbin Minds, 28th day in the month of November. The time is ticking, but it's glad to have you here on Rubbin Minds. A lot to talk about today, and of course, some very interesting guests we have in the studio. From the execution in Singapore to the 8 new bills signed into law by our president of Nigeria, among some other issues coming up. But we also have the issue of the killings and the fact that it's becoming very rampant, and I'm talking about the bombings, I'm talking about the kidnappings. We'll address that as well. Lagos-Ibadan is back on the map, and the reason is just this week we had a terrible accident with a tanker. According to reports, about 4 lives were lost. It caused a huge traffic congestion across that whole stretch into Lagos, and it took about 2 days or so to get rid of that. Why do we have this problem with December around the corner? Are there any solutions? Are the alternative routes really alternative routes in the real sense? And of course, I have a guest with me in the studio whom I bumped into at a speaking engagement this week, and he said something that just struck my nerve. He said that Africa is unstable, and the instability of Africa is actually what is creating numerous opportunities for us. And the question is, what are these opportunities? Are we blind to these opportunities? And I am not wrong in saying that he's actually probably more passionate about Africa than Africans. All this and much more will be here on Rubbin Minds. We also have our guest who will be coming in from Leap Africa, and of course our celebrity guest in the studio as well, Andre Blaze. So like I said, there's a lot to talk about, so let's get cracking. In the studio to analyze some of the headlines with me, we have Achike Chude, who is a writer, social commentator, and everything in between. Great to have you.
Yeah, pleasure always.
And of course, we have Gary Whitehill.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
I like to call you Mr. Africa. He loves to call himself the futurist. And it's great to have you on the show as well.
Future is for Africa.
Oh, the future is for Africa.
Come on.
My bad. Thanks for obliging the invitation. I know it was short notice, but you actually stayed back 4 days just to make this happen. Really appreciate that. So, Achike, let's kick off with what's happening at home. Nigerian executed in Singapore. Singapore is known for being very strict with the law. Some people say Nigerians deserve what comes to them, but what's so unique about this story?
Well, I mean, we've been having these similar issues all over that Asian hemisphere. It's Singapore, Indonesia, and the rest. In most cases, drug-related. It's really unfortunate because I know that a lot of effort was made by the Nigerian government and by Amnesty International to see if he could get a reprieve. Unfortunately, they even asked for clemency from the Singaporean government, but that also, failed. It started and was picked up in 2003, so it's a trial that has lasted for about 9 years, convicted in 2009 or so, yeah, and then longer than that, 2009, and executed recently, unfortunately. It just goes to, I think the worry for a lot of people really is the kind of a trial that some of these people are getting. We know that he was said to have been in possession of about just slightly above 500 grams of, hard drug, which triggers the kind of, prosecution that we have seen from the authorities. But according to Amnesty International, that what has happened is not in line with best international practice. And that was why they were doing so much to see if he could get a reprieve. And then again, the issue of death sentence, capital punishment, is something that has been on the wane. In most parts of the world, people are feeling that there's an alternative. Life imprisonment, for instance, is better than deciding to take a man's life.
But actually, some might say, some of the school of thought that when you have a stiff penalty such as this, if you're a drug dealer, Singapore will be the last place on your list to go to. And in effect, it means it's working. A country has a right to actually decide how it wants to govern its people. And if you break that law...
Yeah, but I would agree with you. I mean, we have executions in China, we have in Iran, and so on. Some of them have the highest levels of execution, Saudi Arabia and the rest. But the reality is that the world is moving away. There's also an international trend, that the world is moving away from such acts they describe as barbaric and so on. Of course, one is not going to undermine the ability of countries to make laws for the good governance and ordering of their state. But the reality is that when you have alternatives, then I think such alternatives should be exploited. But most importantly, the reality is that there is no place where capital punishment has actually dissuaded people from committing crimes.
I see Gary nodding. You wanted to chip in on this?
Yeah. At the end of the day, people are going to do what they have to do, right, to feed their families, regardless of what the laws are. Right. So if you're in an environment where you have no other opportunity besides what we're talking about here, that's exactly what you're going to do regardless. Because humans at the end of the day, all they care about is three things: being happy, being healthy, and having an ability to take care of their family. That last one being the most important. And without having the context of who these people are and what's actually going on in their lives, it's a moot point just what the law is by itself.
But some might disagree with you in the sense that because you want to feed your family doesn't now mean you should pick up arms, smuggle drugs, and break the law. You have an alternative of actually working hard and working properly and getting a decent meal. So how do you balance that?
Well, I think that's a complete heuristic. I mean, the world's in a very simple place right now, overall, whether it's here in Africa, whether it's the Middle East, whether it's America, whether it's Europe. You either have opportunity or you're going to pick up a gun. It's that simple. Or you're going to sell drugs or do something in the black market that we all look down upon. Right? And the fact of the matter is that when we talk about entrepreneurship, innovation, startups, these types of progressive things and the exponential changes that we're seeing in the world and these trends that are continuing to compound, policymakers have not created the right structures, the right thinking, the right paradigms that can allow people to have the opportunities that they want.
I love what you said about policy making, and that takes me to one of the other stories today. President Buhari signs 8 bills into law. Some of these bills signed into law include Telecommunications and Postal Offence Act, National Crop Varieties, Produce Prevention of Crimes Act, Water Resources Act, Agriculture and Rural Management, National Agricultural Land. A lot of these are. What is the impact of signing these bills into law, Achike?
Well, I think during the campaign, I think the president emphasized on 2, major areas he was going to try to intervene in the polity, to change the polity positively, and one of them was in the area of crime, and that is the anti-corruption war. The other one that was also heavily emphasized is in the area of agriculture. They had talked about the need to diversify the economy of this country. We know that governments over the years have paid lip service to that, even when they came up with Operation Feed the Nation, the Green Revolution, under the military and under Shehu Shagari, administration. And of course, we are paying a price for that now because we failed to do the right thing at the right time. So if you look at these 8 bills, the remarkable thing about them is that these bills, about 6 of them essentially have to do, with agriculture to a very large extent. Then the other 2, have to do with the issue of, anti-corruption, crime-related, and so on. So this gives you an idea, really, of the direction that the government is going, even with this bill.
But I mean, Achike, we've had a lot of bills signed into law in the past, and I think some of the issues and the frustration is the implementation of these bills. Do you think this is just going to be another paperwork?
It's early days yet. I mean, the reality is that you can't exactly predict the nature and character of the government in terms of its ability to execute some of. And I mean, it's true. It's one thing to make policies. It's another thing to ensure that these policies, no matter how laudable, that these policies are actually implemented. This is the issue we've always had with the country.